David, we can't hear anything. We can't hear a thing.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
We have not started the meeting. We're waiting on two of our committee members. Alrighty. Okay, this is I'll call the meeting to order of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. It is July 24th and it is currently 6:05 p.m. This is David Douglas presiding. I have John Bell. I have Kelly Hunter and Paul Yingling present. Lisa Izinga is absent at this time, although we believe she may be coming and joining us, but we do have a quorum. Let's see here. So regarding the agenda, I would like to make one change, and that change is to give some brief comments regarding the Board of Trustees meeting this past Tuesday, in which the three committees made a presentation informing the capital improvement plan and the strategic plan of the final output of the three committees. So I want to make some comments tonight regarding that. So I would like to add that under old business as number 5A. Do I have a motion to accept that change? Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. All right. Any other changes or additions or deletions to the agenda for tonight? From anyone? Okay. Do we have anybody on our call tonight who have wanted to make any comments? Okay. Then moving on, number 4, our consent agenda for the meeting minutes of our June 26th meeting. And other than the notes that you all presented to me, I sent those along with the Zoom recording to Carolyn. She responded that she was not sure she would be able to get to it. Apparently she didn't, because I had not gotten the final minutes, and I didn't think it really appropriate to put in anything but the minutes that we would ultimately approve. So next meeting, I suppose we'll address the minutes from this meeting as well as the June 26th meeting. So no meeting minutes to approve tonight. Okay. So we're down to the agenda point that I wanted to add. So the meeting was held, Board of Trustees, this past Tuesday night. We did make the presentation of the committees. I want to first of all state that there's been some feedback both from this committee and from town employees to me directly regarding the content of the presentation, and I really want to address that. First of all, what I'd like to do is just sort of go back through the process just a little bit. Paul headed up this effort at the request and approval of the Board of Trustees. It started with meetings that Paul organized and led of each of the committees separately. And the reason for that was that each committee needed to work through the process as a committee rather than cross-contaminating each other. So that we knew that every committee was bringing their own specific issues. The next step after the three committees met with Paul was for the three committee chairs to meet, to take that input of all three committees and really consolidate it into and really determine out of that where there were commonalities, where there were not commonalities, what was important to convey, what was not. And there was a certain amount of editorial capability given to the committee chairs in that process. But ultimately, the presentation that was finalized, and by the way, that meeting was open to the public. So it was a noticed meeting. Anyone could have attended to hear the dialogue of the committee chairs and Paul. So the final document that was prepared and submitted was had the unanimous approval of all three committee chairs. And Paul helped me with the rules, but I think if we couldn't have a unanimous approval, then it wouldn't have been in the presentation. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. So all three committee chairs had to approve that the content. So there was also an issue, and I want to clarify this because I think I spoke out of turn in an earlier conversation. The question had come up as to why Paul did not present. From the very beginning, Paul had told the Board of Trustees he would not be presenting. And that was from day one, that you were going to turn it over to the committee chairs for them to present the outcome. But there was our last meeting, I think we had asked you to present and you said yes, but then you then had, you thought about it.
Right. The more, it wasn't my product. I remember Bo saying this, Paul, when we get to your meeting and your briefing, I wanted to say, Bo, no, this is not my briefing. It was very much the committee input represented by the committee chairs. And so I just wanted to avoid the perception that I was somehow speaking for myself or this was my briefing. So that was my hope in having all the committee chairs. I think that was the right approach. That's what we told the board. I probably shouldn't have waffled on that, but that was where we ended up.
So I think one of the issues has been expressed is that the committees didn't have a chance to review the final output, and that was never built into the process. Is that correct?
Right. The process was bottom up, that in February, we briefed the board that the committees would meet individually, that every committee member would individually rank order their strategic priorities and capital improvement priorities. After doing that individually, then the committees would meet. Then that input would be consolidated to the committees. I would then return that to each committee chair, and then each committee chair would bring their committee's product to a consolidated committee chair meeting, and that unanimously approved product by the three committee chairs would go to the board. There was never a feedback loop where we would take it back down to the committees and then back up. Every one of those steps took a month. And so to reiterate that back down to the individual committee members, back up to the committee chairs, back up, would have added 3 months to this process. So no, we did not do that.
Okay, thanks. We decided, well, first of all, there was a section where we presented what we thought were the successes of our committees historically leading up to this meeting. And those were presented each by the committee chairs and then followed by the recommendations. The feedback that I have received is that the presentational tone of what we presented was not positive. It was a negative. And contained personal attacks on various town employees. And that I personally made some comments that were inconsistent or not faithful to the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. I'd like to just take a minute and explain that in the presentation, after each of the committee members did their part on the successes, Lamar Matthews presented the remainder. But we were asked to comment as we went along, and my comments tended toward anecdotal information to support points that were being made. At one point in a final comment, when I reiterated what the priorities were, I did make the statement that the priorities did not include the pool, which, you know, I probably should have not made that statement. That was certainly not anything that was part of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee's discussions. But the town staff, Becky and Bo, both talked to me last Friday. I was here at Town Hall. They were deeply upset that felt that they were blindsided, that they were personally attacked by the report, by the presentation, and they, you know, were quite upset. And so I stayed here and talked with them for quite a while and heard them out. But at the same time, tried to explain to them where some of my comments had come from. We ended that meeting, I'd say on a very positive note. And what I had come here for was to help Becky write a grant, which we did do after our discussion. And I felt like, you know, we had addressed some of the issues. Would like to make one comment though, on May 31st, to the point that they were making, I didn't think about it at the time, but the point that they were making that they were blindsided and they did not know what was going to be in the report. In fact, on May 31st, Paul had sent the town manager, the town clerk, and the mayor the output of the committee in a summarized form to let them know kind of what to expect. So it wasn't as if they were blindsided. And, you know, so I guess I wanted to sort of lay the groundwork here and try to explain from my perspective what my intent was to provide contextual and anecdotal information to support the presentation. I deeply regret and I'm sorry for the fact that any of my comments caused a person to feel that they were personally attacked by any of my comments, and that anyone believes that I was unfaithful to this committee in my comments. And you know, Paul, you were there, obviously. Kelly, I don't think you were. I don't know if you attended the meeting, but you can certainly listen to the playback. You can hear everything that was said. So I just want to take this opportunity to express these things and to offer my apology if I was offensive in any way. So, yes.
So as I recall the output, the three things that we told the board were most important were mitigating fires, fixing roads, enforcing ordinances, including nuisance trees and traffic safety, core public safety functions. So that message, I think, is entirely valid. Well, no, let's just leave it there. That message is valid.
Thank you, Paul. All right. Unless there are any other comments with regard to that subject, we will move on. All right. So item B now, a cusp has gotten started. Yay. It's been a long time coming, a lot of work by everybody on this committee to get this done. But I think they started today. I heard a lot of chainsaws below us. And I got an email from Adrian today asking if they could cross our property tomorrow or the next day. So they're here, they're working. They, by the way, just so everybody knows, what it came down to is after they got their bid, I think it was like $4,250 per acre. So taking into consideration the monies that the town had allocated and budgeted, which was $15,000. When you consider the 60-40 split with our 15 and what the price of the acres to work, the number of acres that can be worked is 5.8. So just a little under 6 acres out of a total of 14 acres on the rights of way. So, you know, we didn't get all the rights of way in, but you know, we got just a little less than half. Okay. Any comments on the cusp or questions on that, on the right of way project? Right. Education program update and recommendation. I have some comments. I'll defer to John or Kelly if you have something specific you want to talk about tonight.
I think the only thing that we need to talk about is the 45-minute video that you sent out to everyone from No Flow Co. I think that, and how you would like to use that, not only for internal use, but external use.
Question?
That's a question to you.
Okay. Thanks, John, because that was exactly the thing I wanted to talk about. So my thought was maybe we post it to the town website so that it's easily accessible. People don't have to go find it on YouTube. If we just put the link there. You know, I just think I mean, it's so well done and it presents everything that we've been trying to say in a 42-minute video. I just think it's great. I mean, so I'm wondering if there's some way that we might be able to, as part of our education program, at a Sally Bush or something, we show that film. I mean, that's just an idea. So open for discussion, but I think it's an excellent education tool. Hi, Lisa. Lisa Huizinga has joined us.
Does Sally Bush have a projection system or is that something we'll need to arrange?
Things are different now that the Greenbacks organization owns it. Before there wasn't anything available to the public, but they might have something.
I mean, so a couple options. We could also look at the Church of the Wildwood to see if we could use their meeting hall, which has a very nice AV capability. And if not, I have just from my work, a decent projection capability if we did want to use Sally Bush.
I think Church of the Wildwood is a great venue as well. So either one would work. So any thoughts on timing? I mean, is this one of those things you want to do when it's snowing outside and it's cold and nobody's everybody wants to go to a movie night or is this one of those things that we try to do sooner than later, this summer? Any thoughts on that?
So maybe we just start sequentially and agree that this is going to be the vehicle for FMAC to communicate what our mitigation priorities are and how homeowners can participate in mitigation. And I'd like to make a motion that we do accept it as our vehicle for communicating to town residents what our priorities are and how mitigation is done on a home by home basis.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, so that's going to be our official tool.
Till we
help
get something
educate.
better.
Yeah, okay. And who wants to take the lead then in terms of, setting a date, the whole process of advertising it, getting the word out, sort of making it an event, what time it's going to be, what day it's going to be, all those kind of things.
I think what I would like to see is this would happen over the summer while our summer residents are here, so they also have the opportunity to participate in this because their properties are just as vulnerable. Not, just because they're here just for the summer doesn't matter. I kind of like to see this happen sometime in August before they leave, before Labor Day.
You probably realistically have 2, maybe 3 weeks at the most left. Because, a lot of places, school starts back at mid-August. So, if people have children there and they're here for the summer, they're heading back. So, I mean, that's the time frame you're looking at. And I'm not opposed to that because I think there's nothing that says we only get one time to show it.
Right.
And this message could reinforce 2 other initiatives, the September Chipper Days and evacuation exercise, which is scheduled for October. And this could raise the profile of both of those events, get more participation in both of those. So I think a late August goal that then maximizes Chipper Day sign up and evacuation practice or program sign up might complement one might complement the other.
The only problem is that school starts back, I want to say that 18th, I think, of August. So I would want to do it before then, if they're clearing out before then to go home. And I know that's a quick turnaround, but if we posted it on Facebook and maybe then mayor's newsletter and talk to Darlene at Church in the Wildwood, possibly maybe somewhere around the 15th. What do you think?
I'm okay with that. What is the 15th? What day of the week is it?
It's a Tuesday?
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's a Tuesday.
Think that, so what I'm hearing is direction to to push this to be sooner than later, trying to capture summer residents to the extent possible, given David's comments. Maybe we need, I think to David's point, we need someone to organize this, find a date that's deconflicted with the town schedule. And everyone's individual personal schedules to move it forward. So we sort of need a champion, is what I'm hearing.
I could do
Okay, it's yours. Would you just communicate with us as you're moving through the process in terms of what date, what date you're thinking works to coordinated with everybody. You'll talk to Reverend Darlene, or Pastor Darlene, and sort of coordinate also all of the publicity that goes along with it. How do we get it out? Obviously we can, with Bronc Day coming up, that's a great place to publicize it as well. So anyway, we'll leave that in your court. You'll decide the venue and
Would the 15th conflict with any committee meeting? Or board of trustees?
well, I don't.
I think that's the point, is if you could look through the schedules to make sure that it is deconflicted. For some reason in my head, I had that the Board of Trustees was meeting on the 15th, and I might be incorrect, but I had that in my head,
They meet every 2 weeks, right?
I believe.
Okay, so this is the off week.
Well, again,
Yeah,
we can,
so
we
anyway.
can, yes.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. It's, go ahead, Joe.
and maybe we could just talk very high level about what else would take place during this. I don't want to micromanage this, but if there was, so the video, yes. You're going to still be in town. So some sort of preamble and whatever else we wanted to tag in, not to make it a long evening for anyone, but just sort of a high level structure of what else we want to consider.
Yeah, I would say we just have to make sure there's a call to action, not just get people excited and informed about fire mitigation, but then sign up for chipper days, participate in the evacuation exercise, mitigate your property, contact your neighbors, complete our database, give them some tangible actions to take so it's not just information, if there's an action component.
I like that.
All right, Kelly, we're looking forward to the output there and being wherever it is on August, whatever date it is.
Do any of you have any conflicts that mid-August?
I'm here and I don't have anything.
I'm out of town the 16th through the 25th, 26th.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you doing that. Anything else on education update and recommendations? All right, moving to
So on item
recent
C,
development. Yeah.
yeah, so on item C, is this still necessary? Or,
Yeah.
we kept lowering the length of the clock for training. Does this satisfy our need for a body of knowledge? And does anything further need to be pursued, whether it's COCO or any other organization?
I want to clarify that I understand what you're asking. Are you asking, does the Fire Mitigation 101 done by NoFlowco satisfy our training needs for us?
So we were looking for a 101 type course, that established a body of knowledge that consolidated us as a team for both the 5 of us and those that are going to get engaged, whether it's through the block ambassador program or whatever committed friends to the FMAC we found. That's my question. Whether this needs to be pursued further.
Comments?
Yeah, John, it seems to me that like singularity of focus is better. You know, there's a risk of information fratricide, that we have two messages and they end up shooting each other. So I think having one message has real advantages. So my recommendation would be, you know, pick the message we want, and I think the video is a great one. And you go with
It's
it.
simple, it's clear,
Right.
it's very digestible. I'm agreeing that I think that it's satisfactory and that it is meeting our current needs. So we may develop further, but
I agree that I don't think there's anything further needed in terms of engaging with mitigation training with GOCO or COCO. Seems like we're on an agreement then that our official training will be the Fire Mitigation 101 by No Flow Code. All right, moving to item E, Red Cross, sorry, John, did you have some? Okay, Red Cross program. I've tried to copy everybody as much as I can over the last week or so. Just to keep you informed, and I think I was okay in terms of sunshine laws and doing that, but yesterday I sent Corey Tanner an email that I did not. Did I copy any of you on that, or did I just? I don't think I did. I think I sent it just to her without copying anybody. And I just said, what is happening? Could you please give me something that tells me where we're heading with this? I'm still waiting for a response. So at this point, I'd have to say I'm a little disappointed in the Red Cross and sort of their delivery of what they promised. So did you?
You and I not realizing it, both contacted Corey the same day.
Mhm.
And what she told me when I shared with her that several people had tried to contact the name
Team
just-
Rubicon.
Team Rubicon, and had not heard anything back, had no response. I left a message. I never got a warm body on the phone.
Mhm.
But I never heard back either from anyone. And several people had said, you know, the same thing had happened to them. And that there was talk that Team Rubicon wasn't even aware that we were partnering with Red Cross.
Well,
which-
let's fast forward just a little bit because I have since written an email that she requested from me, which listed every person who
Yes.
had attempted to contact Team Rubicon, had no success. Because she asked me to provide that. I provided name and email. And she said she would personally handle the coordination between those people and Team Rubicon. All I asked was that she keep me in the loop so we would know kind of what's happening. And then up to date now is the email I sent her yesterday, from which I have not received a response.
Okay,
So that's where we stand now. I guess what I really want to talk about is what do we want to do from here? Do we want to, I hate to, I just, I hate it when we promise people something and we can't deliver and it's out of our hands to deliver. And what do you say? What do you?
Yeah. And when I would call, it was a California number. So I'm like, it feels very, very remote. So if we can get something closer to home for our next steps,
well, the team that's here is aware.
Oh, are they?
Yes, and that's who Corey's talking to,
Okay.
that she was gonna coordinate. But I
Okay.
have not heard anything back either. And I know she's getting ready to go out of town.
Okay.
So do you want me to contact her or do you want to contact her again?
Well, clearly I'm not getting a response, so maybe you can get a response.
I found the best way to get a hold of Corey is a phone call.
Okay. Yeah, I'm never sure what is the best way to contact people. Some people say text, some phones, so anyway. Yeah, if you want to call her, that'd be great. And just find out what you can. And tell her we need to know what to tell our residents who have participated in the program. All right. Item F is Bronc Day. All right. It's a big one. All right, John, Kelly.
Okay, so first, approach. I sent out a sign up genius and it's still blank. Now, is it the wrong approach? Do we need a better, simpler, write it down on paper versus electronically? How should we get people organized?
From my perspective, I opened it, I looked at it, and I thought I would rather have some discussion about it tonight before I started signing my name. But I will be putting my name on the
So,
sign up genius.
okay, so step one is it the right mechanism to get us signed up? Let's talk about it.
So you have the issue of setup and you have the issue of takedown and you have the issue of we don't have a table, but we do have a tent,
We
right?
have a tent and
No
I can,
tent, no table, and
I have a table.
okay, well, great. It's problem solved. Kelly's gonna bring her table, right? Okay, I've got chairs, I've got folding chairs that I can bring. Be happy to bring those, I can bring 4, that's what I've got. I think that'd be enough.
I thought I would get there at 10 to do setup, well, a little earlier than 10 to do setup. Because I've got all the litters and the bow is sitting in person for that post. And I can bring the table. I would love to get more copies of the wildfire evacuation checklist to hand to people.
okay, can someone help Kelly set up? Because this tent is heavy and I can deliver it to whoever tonight, so we can go to the Chamber of Commerce garage or storage bin and I can transfer it to whomever's vehicle. So the tent will come from Chamber of Commerce. They're lending us a tent. It's changing constantly. They've, the 2 individuals, running the show have redrawn the map again. And so we're now out of the farm stand. So I'm sorry. So at one point we were in the sun and needed a tent. Then we were moved into under the farm stand and didn't need a tent. And then just within the last few days, we're back in the sun and need a tent. So that's where we are today, the latest and greatest information. And so
Remind me again the time that we need to set up. Is it 10? Or I thought it was
the parade is at 10. So on the sign up genius, I had put 9 to 10 as a setup. I guess it's between those, again, I'm not available to set up.
Yep.
Whoever is going to set up can coordinate with the intention of being ready post parade. That's when the crowd will arrive. And you could set up post parade, like, that is an option as well. I tried to make that sign up genius as flexible as possible, understanding we needed to talk about logistics and how things were going to come together.
I'm happy to do the setup. How complicated is the tent? Have you said, do you have
I
any?
never set it up.
Okay,
I think it is a stretch it out, open it up kind of affair, and we can
Okay.
also test that tonight if you have time.
and do you have it with you?
I don't have it with me, but we can go to the Chamber of Commerce storage shed and grab it. Yeah.
Okay. I got a vehicle that'll haul it. So,
All right, and then I can set up with you because I've got all the materials from the table. So
Perfect.
That's good.
yep,
So we'll be there at 9 maybe?
yeah.
I
What
can
time is
help take
pancakes?
it
Because I
down.
want to eat pancakes.
Pancakes are from 7 to 9:30. Cutting people off at 9:30 to arrive so that they can eat until 10 and then leave to watch the parade.
Okay. So I need to get there early.
9, probably, it's a good time.
All right, so we'll set up at 9. All right.
How do we know what, I mean, they keep moving it.
There's, so again, what I understanding is when you arrive looking like, hey, I need a place to set up my tent, that's when they're gonna start placing people. And so they did have an elaborate scheme. Again, the last I heard, there was an elaborate scheme of pre-arranging and, you know, this is slot 20 and this is for you and slot 21 is for jewelry, et cetera. Now it's gonna be as people arrive, they're gonna is the way I understand it as of this minute. And I think they're gonna line people up so that they keep spacing the way they want it to be organized, because they've got 50 vendors. And they have, yes, 50 vendors, and so space is sort of at a premium, and they've marked it out and know where 50 tents are gonna fit. Other logistics.
Well, first of all, there's more than one time slot.
There's 2 time slots for each hour. Right now, I assume that would be sort of a minimum.
Mhm.
So
So 2 people, in and
are
out.
the, yeah, are the per hour. You tell me how it should be organized. If I can,
You
I
know-
can add slots, I can make slots longer, shorter.
last year, Kelly, you remember it too, but it seemed like it kind of came in waves. It seemed like we had a period of time. It was the really peak time, and I don't remember when that was. I want to say it was after the parade.
Yeah.
Into early afternoon.
Yeah.
And so we really needed 2 people for sure. But there were 3 of us. It was you, me, and Dan. I think Rich Bowman stopped by, but I mean, we, during that time, we kind of needed the 3. We certainly needed 2. There were other times though, we were sitting there sort of twiddling our thumbs and maybe occasionally somebody come by. So, I think we probably need to really think about populating that, in the middle of the day. Making sure that we've got the 2 people. And Dan, you said Dan Batten had said he would participate. Somebody's got to reach out to him and say,
Now that we're approving the vehicle, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna use the sign up genius. I've only sent it to us 5 plus Nick, so we can add Dan. Whomever else you feel like. You would representative,
I can check with Mark also, because he said he.
yeah, sure.
the link is forwardable, so it's designed that you can invite others.
Problems so far. It's like.
Didn't. I was told once what static and which one, which of the many?
Then I killed mine simultaneously.
I think he just did them.
Yes, but since we can all hear you.
Okay, sign up for volunteers. Are we good on that? Because it's forwardable. It's up to all of us to either sign up, forward it, get other people.
So, Lisa's told me she had some. Maybe tonight you can try it.
Open.
1.
So the parade's at 10. It'll be an hour.
Yeah, max, most.
We
So-
can march up and down.
Yeah, so I would say 11, and what time? It's till 3? Is that,
I think the whole, yes.
whole thing's over at 3? I'd say probably 11 to 2. That 3-hour time slot, we should strive to get 3 people. If we can't, we probably can handle it with 2.
I'm sorry, but I can't hear Lisa.
We're done with that part. Okay, materials in the booth. I think we need to, so all put our heads together on what needs to be in the booth. I'll start by saying, you're saying you need that piece right there, which is the wildfire evacuation checklist. That's a good one.
And then the entire box of literature that we had last year.
Are you going to come here and have them make copies for us? Okay. And what else from last
The
year?
whole box of literature that we had from last year.
Okay, well, we need that.
That seemed more than sufficient.
I think we certainly need our Chipper Days sheet to hand out. I have it and I can get Becky to probably copy some more for us. Was there anything else that we need to make sure we have? I want to have a I made a sign-in sheet for Greenbox when we did the hikes for people to put their name, address, phone number, all that stuff. I want to have that there because anybody that stops by, we want to be able to add them either by the QR code or manually.
I agree.
And
I
I'm,
think that's important.
yeah.
I'm really hoping that will be a big piece that we come away with from.
So I'll bring that sign-in sheet. And I'll make sure we have enough copies of that. Okay, so those 2 things are my responsibility, the Chipper Day and that.
And I'll bring the rest of it.
Okay, so anybody have any other thoughts on what we need?
Last month, we talked about promoting neighbors, helping, I'm sorry, block ambassadors, that we were gonna promote block ambassadors as a new program, try to recruit block ambassadors.
I think it's a great idea.
Could we have the explanation sheet for block ambassadors as part of the literature? Like that 1-pager that you worked up?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll just make sure we test it and that it's, linking the right spreadsheet. Yes, yeah. Yeah, but I think that's a great point. The goal should be action. If people take action, signing up for the database and, getting monthly tips, Chipper Days, etc.
Anything else on Bronc Day? Going to be big. All right. The September, no, so what is my next, what does that say?
Oh, one more thing.
September Chipper Days, what that's,
Publicity / volunteers.
yes,
Can we back up,
yes,
because we also.
Y'all, we cannot hear you.
At each of the schools.
okay, just let us know. All right, so September Chipper Day. So the link is now open. I went on the other day and signed up. I'm thinking I signed up. I didn't get any kickback. So we really need to start pushing that in every way that we can. Posting it, post office, having it at Bronc Day, everything, just to do an email with it. Send that out. And then we're going to have to put something together for volunteers. Do we have a document that we use? Was that a Chief Murphy document or was that do y'all remember?
Yeah, I think that was literally just, morning and afternoon, Saturday and Sunday. It wasn't any formal document that we used to, because he only needs a couple people per shift. And so I think we left that pretty informal.
Did that go out to everybody who had signed up? That's- I don't remember that.
That said, if you wanted to volunteer. I'm trying to remember.
I don't think, not that I sent out, no. I mean, we sent out a Chipper Day flyer to get people to volunteer or to participate in Chipper Day. But so far as I know, we just recruited volunteers internally, informally, as we only need 8 max if we, run morning and afternoon, Saturday and Sunday.
So what I did was I created a sign up genius and the distribution list with everyone that signed up for Chipper Days for the June Chipper Days. And so the people that signed up were Chipper recipients. So that's and it was correct. 2 shifts, 2 per shift for 2 days. So it was 8 that signed up, but we only ended up using 4 because 1 full day was not utilized. Yeah, I mean, we got everyone signed up. So, we filled all the slots. And so that's my measure of success. Say yes.
Well, if that worked, can we do that again? Perfect. So you're going to take that. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to that because I will sign up.
And so in terms of timing, it was literally 2 or 3 days prior, because we didn't have, well, it was pretty short. Prior.
We got plenty of time. I mean, but I think we should start early, get it all lined up. It's better to do that than scrambling at the last minute.
Sending out
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think, if we're getting people to participate, I think we need to get closure with them and say, at the end, say thanks. Okay. Mhm. Is your mic on? I just got a text from Carolyn Bowers that said she was not hearing you or
okay.
Kelly.
Okay,
So
yeah. Can I ask some questions about the logistics of the Chipper
absolutely,
Day? Okay.
yes.
So John and I were talking about the predicament of a small lot like mine, and I have some other friends that are not participating in Chipper Day because of the chips that there's just nowhere to put them. Does it add fuel to your property? You know, so, and I understand that this chipper tagged along on the big vehicle is really difficult to maneuver around our streets. So is there a way that we could maybe man a place for certain designated hours to stack their if people like myself would bring in to a pile where it could be chipped elsewhere and
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think that if we want to do that, we need to start organizing that early, which means coordinating with the town and with the chief,
right.
because the town would have to supply the place to put stuff. And the
Right.
chief would have to be in agreement that at some point in the 2-day period, he would make that stop and ship all of that material.
Right,
And
And-
that has to be agreed on by the town as well. That,
right.
so those are the first two things that I see that would need to
Right.
happen. Then you need to figure out if you're going to offer that. And one of the issues we've got because of maneuverability, there may be people that sign up that when we go and look at their, their property and where they are, the chief may say, I can't get in there. So it would be ideal, it'd be a real plus if we could get a list of volunteers who might be willing to go and pick up people's slash and carry it to that spot. So
Right.
you'd then have two volunteer groups. You'd have the volunteers who are going to be going with the chipper, and you'd have a group of volunteers who in advance of Chipper Day might help people get their stuff delivered to whatever spot has been decided on. But that's a lot of moving parts that have to be coordinated, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. And I guess if it can get organized this go around, we could always, make the wheels happen, hopefully for the next one, but if we can't do it this one. But so I have a couple other questions. So what happens to the chips? Like, I know there's a big pile of chips on Oak Street, like historically, what happens to those?
Does anybody have an answer of historically what happened? I could tell you what happened last year. When I participated, they blew them back up on my yard.
Right.
And I'm now using them as mulch to
Right.
mulch my newly planted plants.
Yeah.
One option might be the school because they use the wood chips on the playground.
Right. It's an issue though of who's going to, will the school come and get them?
I can,
Will they, again, that's introducing another moving part. What was the intent of your question?
I'm gonna sort of
Yes,
get to a motion.
Please. Okay.
How's that? So Lisa brings up a great point. For well manicured small lots like her own, dealing with chips is an issue. So, and she's not alone. There's others, that have that same issue. So, and I know we've talked about the downside of having a pre-designated spot, but I'd like to make a motion that in anticipation of the September chipper days, that we do work with the city to find an anticipated spot to put slash for those homeowners that either don't want the chips or already recognize they're on the ends of, they're in cold, they're at places where the chipper is not going to arrive anyway, like my lot.
And we try to identify that. So that's sort of step one, and maybe we stick there because I have a second motion to go along with that. So that's my motion.
I second that.
All in favor?
I,
All in favor? It's unanimous. Any opposed? Okay,
Say that again.
A designated spot for individuals to deliver slash in anticipation of chipper days. We'll have to identify the location and the timeframe. But work with the city to identify the location and the timeframe. So that's passed. And then the second part would be then whether we want to, because this does add to our partnership with the fire department or fire district of being able to voluntarily get those piles that aren't current, that homeowners aren't going to take down to the designated spot. So, you know, the Friday prior to try to coordinate within our available resources, the ability to collect those piles for the city. Bring them to the designated spot. So that's the second motion. Would be that we have that we would add to the partnership by being the worker bees to coordinate the, you know, getting the piles down to the designated spot.
Yeah, before, well, I have a question on that. So shouldn't we first look to Public Works to do this with Public Works vehicles and supplement that as needed? And this kind of goes back to that issue of town priorities. If fire mitigation is the town's #1 priority, and they can only do one thing, the one thing they should do with their trucks is pick up slash and get it to the chipper days. And then if that's not enough, if the trucks are broken, if the drivers aren't available, then yes, by all means, volunteers supplementing. But if this is the town's first priority, then the town's resources should go against it.
I think that's a great test of the strategy.
Yeah, yes.
with these motions. That one is already passed, one is pending. If, assuming both pass, one's passed and one pending passes. Is this, then we're turning this over to Lisa to really make the arrangements of, as the volunteer coordinator.
I'm happy to do that.
Is that right?
That's between you two.
Do that.
Okay, so any more questions about this second motion? Do I have a second? Kelly seconds. All in favor? Aye.
I,
None opposed? Passes. Thank you, John, for putting those into motion form.
Does the town use wood chips for different things? Does Public Works use wood chips for different areas around town? Would it be beneficial to them? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
yeah, there's that big, huge pile on Oak Street and yeah, just kind of
Then there's
wonder, what.
So
What
Lisa,
happens?
since you're going to undertake this,
Yes.
if you need some help,
Okay.
please, say something.
Betcha.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions on Chipper Day? Okay, so how are we doing on our database?
We have 62 signups, and whoever was at work on July 14th was just killing it, David. Yeah, so like 15 signups on July 14th alone. So yes, yeah, so we are now at 61 total signups. So, and if I could loop this into, I think we may have missed the monthly tip. But
Sorry.
but that's okay. Yeah, it's just to weave these two together. This month's monthly tip I'm gonna propose, and forgive me, I just got the flyer on Friday afternoon, but the Ute Pass evacuation exercise, I sent it out to you all. The Pikes Peak Office of Emergency Management is sponsoring an October 7th evacuation exercise. They're holding a public meeting on September 25th at the school. And the advertising will begin at Bronc Days. The PPROM will be pushing out in their booth information about the evacuation exercise. So I offered our good offices to push out the flyer as well through our email. And as David points out, I think we can also do a second email push in a couple weeks, a month out from Chipper Days, to start pushing Chipper Days in August as well.
You sent that by email.
Yes, yeah, but I just sent it out this afternoon.
Okay. Did everybody see that email from?
No.
Okay. I guess I can. You want to maneuver my,
Oh, is it in your,
it's on my, I mean, you could go to my email on my computer. To the bottom there, the email icon,
oh, where is it?
right beside the Microsoft.
Forgive me, I don't see it. So I'm at PowerPoint, Word.
Go that way,
Okay,
right there. Okay. Now.
okay.
Leave the drop down arrow and say open.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so this is the flyer. And again, this came from Amanda Meldrum at PPROEM. And my thought is we'll push this out as kind of a partnership building exercise to help them get the word out. And then also in a subsequent email this month as well, push out Chipper Days, and that everything we're doing, whether it's Bronc Days, whether it's the school night, that these are the movie night, these are events that we can be marketing to get people to commit to as action items.
Okay. I like it.
So may I make a motion to accept the UPass evacuation exercise as the August tip of the month?
Yes. Is that your motion?
That is my motion, yes.
Do I have a second? John seconds, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, sorry that I overlooked the mitigation tip,
Oh,
Paul.
no worries.
Now we are at the formation of volunteer group block captain.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce Ed Johnson, who has expressed interest in being a block captain. If you are on the west side of town, Ed's a lot at the corner of Cottage and Iona. Beautiful, yes, it's a showcase, yeah. And so Ed has expressed an interest, so thank you, Ed, for coming out. In a kind of related note, as neighbor to neighbor and block captains are very much interrelated, the property that we looked at, John, the owner, has expressed an interest in neighbor to neighbor help. So much so that he asked for it for this Friday. A little too soon. Maybe the fall. Maybe that's a start. Let's do that. We'll walk the property this Friday, but then maybe labor the following week after Bronc Days.
Ed wants to join us,
Yeah.
that could be valuable as well. So this is something that you already know about that we can talk about after the meeting, but I don't want to go into further detail. But it's a property in need, and if the three of us walk the property to identify what trees the property. Then we'll see the need, how big it is, and assess the labor pool to, to get to the next step.
Okay, I will contact him and we will arrange time on Friday.
I would like to go, but if I go, that becomes a meeting.
We don't have to do an open
have to-
records
Exactly.
walk in the yard. Okay.
So I would love to go, but anyway, I can't.
We could agree not to make a decision, but that's sort of not the point of the walk around through the yard. It wouldn't be a.
Okay, so you're pursuing, how are you going about promoting the block captain? Other than you've recruited Ed? What
Well,
else?
that's a lot. So let me just say, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But yes, we're, we are also appealing in the monthly tip of the month, but we have had no traction there. I think to John's frequent
Do we need to-
observation.
Do we need to send out the job description?
We could do that, and it certainly would help. But I truly believe that the face-to-face appeals are what will gain traction.
We went through this exercise last month, and I think what we agreed is that Bronc Day at face-to-face, working with people and say, oh, you're excited about fire mitigation? I got an opportunity for you. And
All right.
see what.
All right, so great. Neighbor to neighbor. We had a vote last month, where we decided that was not going to be part of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. Am I correct? Does everybody remember that?
We also had a motion to table. Lisa wanted to bring something else up.
It felt like
Yeah.
it felt like a big decision to have that either part of the FMAC or not. So I wasn't quite ready to vote. And and I do like how mingling the neighbor to neighbor with block captains, I guess, concerns are all the, I don't know if it's difficulty with the town's liability issues and that kind of thing. So now we have, like for chipper days, I guess I'll probably get a release of liability for chipper days, but no. Okay. So
Well,
I'm
if
just
for
confused about all of
volunteers, they're
that.
going to be with the chief.
Okay.
I think he has a release. At least he did last year. I don't know.
Yeah,
about now.
I can tell you, I showed up and fed the chipper and, nobody asked me to sign anything. I think there's a risk of self-deterrence that we will manufacture concerns over liability and then not do things out of those concerns. There's a real risk of just, paralysis by
Right.
worrying about liability. If the lawyers tell us to stop, I think we should stop. But if they don't, we shouldn't. Yeah, and I think we're all, smart people here. I will not do anything dangerous or stand by idly while someone else does something dangerous. But if we are, to use John's frequent metaphor, going to our neighbor's property and picking up sticks and putting them in a pile because they don't have the health capacity to do that, and we tell them about chipper days. I see this as a very low risk activity. And so I wouldn't want us to allow concerns about liability to keep us from helping our neighbors.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the town's real concern on this issue has been when it comes to operating a chainsaw or some equipment like that, which really is a dangerous piece of equipment and really could. Back when we had this whole discussion about the town's position, they wanted us to say, well, what are the jobs that you would have volunteers do? And for each one of those jobs, what training is required, specialized training. And that sort of then drives the risk mitigation through insurance issue. Okay. So if we said we were just going to be a group of people picking up sticks, you know, that's a low probability, as you said, of injury. So, you know, maybe we could approach it like that, that it's neighbor helping neighbor. And if you just so happen to bring a saw along one day, I mean, not a chainsaw, but a handsaw and cut a limb off, maybe that won't be a big deal. But anyway, I'm just trying to frame up the risk side of it from the town's perspective.
Right.
And the more risky you get, I think the more the town's going to be concerned about it in terms of what kind of equipment are you going to use?
Right.
And I think the two provisions that we can make very easy to enforce and common sense are no power tools and no overhead work. Like if you have to reach over your head, okay, now you're doing forestry. But if you are trimming limbs at eye level or below, picking up sticks from the ground, stacking them, you are at a very low risk profile. And that would do a lot of good for a lot of our neighbors, like just that alone, like limbing up trees up to eye level, getting fuel off the ground, very low risk, very high impact. And that would seem to satisfy any liability concerns the town might have.
But if it's neighbor helping neighbor. If it's neighbor helping neighbor, how does the town get involved? If it's not a fire mitigation committee thing, for lack of a better term. If I invite all my neighbors over for dessert one night and say, hey, what if we each help each other mitigate our property? That's not the town's concern.
Yeah, I think you could, yeah, there's literally nothing that would stop anybody from doing that.
Right.
I think if we discuss it here, that's where it gets a little tricky because
Right.
So I'm gonna cut to the chase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
What is our outcome? What were you, by having it, deferred to this meeting? Were you seeking an outcome for tonight's discussion?
Well,
Other
I
than
guess
clarity?
I,
And so now that you have clarity,
yeah, it felt like. Did you make a motion last time? Do we want neighbor helping neighbor to be a Green Mountain Falls sponsored thing or not? And
yes, and it failed. So it was not,
So it
it
wasn't.
ended not being part of an FMAC program. So we
Right.
decided
Okay.
then that
Okay,
neighbor first, neighbor helping neighbor would not be an FMAC program, but it
Okay.
would live its own life
okay,
outside of FMAC.
okay. Yeah, thank you.
So is that
That's,
your,
I'm
so
all
your
good. Yeah.
education
Yes.
satisfies the topic
Yes.
and we're
Yes.
gonna move on.
Okay. Very good. Then finally, grants. We are going to periodically have opportunities for grants. The last two that have come up, one was Mile High Youth Corps with co-swap money for 2024. The grant was due or is due Wednesday of this week. And that's the one I referred to earlier that I was here on Friday to help Becky with. And we have submitted it to Mile High Youth Corps for input from them. So we, developed. Prior to that, John had worked on one, and it was a Colorado State Forest Service grant that John put a lot of work into. And unfortunately, when it was submitted, not John submitting it, but when it was submitted, we left out a couple of maps. And so it was rejected, but that would have been an excellent grant for us. Point here is we're not covered up with grant applications, but when they come through, I think it would be good for everybody to have a turn in assisting, because I think it's a learning process. It's not that hard. And really what you wind up doing is cutting and pasting. There have been a lot of previous grant applications made. It depends on who the granting authority is. They have varying degrees of complexity. But I really would like it for us, rather than to try and develop a bunch of volunteers to do this, I think first of all, we need to learn ourselves what that entails. And I think we need to, as grants come up, then we need to rotate that responsibility for helping put it together so that we learn. So that's what, that would be my proposal, and my, I guess my motion would be that rather than forming a volunteer group to do grants, that we first agree that we as a committee will rotate that responsibility as grants come up to help write them. That's my motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Opposed? Okay, we have one opposition, 4 in favor, the motion passes.
May I add to your comments?
Yes,
I forget the number, but I was reading a Washington Post article recently that was talking about at the national level, the amount of money that's being committed to fuels reduction. And it appears this is the direct.
We can't hear.
thanks for relaying that information to us, because I've seen sort of similar things. And that's why I think it's important that we learn what's needed in a grant, so that if we start getting covered up, we're able to tell people who might be a volunteer to help us what that entails. I mean, you'll be much better prepared to recruit volunteers. So anyway.
We couldn't hear that, what John said.
All right, moving on to new business. Okay, well, we're already in new business because I just talked about the MYHC grant application. So there's nothing else to cover there. CWPP update. So John and I were at the Teller County Wildfire Council meeting last week on Wednesday, I think. And we keep hearing over and over again that grants are going to become contingent upon an updated CWPP. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan. We have one for the Ute Pass Fire District. So it encompasses Cristola, Green Mountain Falls, and Chipeta. I'm not sure if it covers Cascade. Okay. But it's many years old. It's like 12 years old. 2009. Thank you. And it needs to be updated. CUSP is currently writing a CWPP Teller County, and CUSP is actually doing it. They have a person there, Laura Thomas, that is has gone to get training to do this, and she has offered to help us. Now, I do not propose that we as a committee take it on to write the CWPP, but I think we as a committee need to be prepared to step up with a person from the committee to be part of the CWPP update process. Now, Laura tells me when you're updating as opposed to writing it from scratch, the update is not as difficult. This is for information. There is no action to be taken right now. I have written Laura an email that she asked me to write to her while we were at the meeting to let her know that we wanted her help, and she said she would be willing to help us. So anyway, that process is started. So information only. Any questions? on CWPP or?
Just one addition is that we also learned in that same meeting that the state forestry has added a new position, this Paul Granson.
Yes.
Who is dedicated to being the forestry representative on all these CWPPs that are being updated throughout the forestry region. So that's their commitment to communities producing good CWPPs, is having a representative for state forestry.
All right, moving to the final agenda item under new business. I sent out another video for y'all to look at. I think it was, no, it was a website. And it was fire adapted communities. I wanted to just, I mean, I don't want to get into the details of that website. You should, I just wanted you to look at it and kind of get an idea of what a fire adapted community is. I'm not proposing that we, at this point in our timeline, should set an objective to become a fire adapted community. But I do think that what is in that process of becoming a fire adapted community should help guide us in terms of, our forward looking and where we're going. And, because what fire adapted community really does is it pulls all organizations together. It's, I mean, literally, you might have seen the circle with all the little, pie pieces in it. But, that was a great way of describing just how many moving parts there are and organizations involved. And it's a lot of work. There's no question. It's a lot of work.
And it represents direction that the communities are going. And I use that phraseology in the forestry grant that we were, that what we were requesting would help us move towards becoming a fire adapted community. So similar trains of thought. It's directional, not necessarily taking on the full scope of what that program means, but I think we do need to be considering it directionally, so that we're living with fire as the state forestry organization is directing us. And that's part of what it, that's how we adapt.
Well, one of the things that is in the Floco video, he talks about personal responsibility. And that's part of being a fire adapted community is that individuals are part of that interconnected circle. You have to do your part. And, that's part of our messaging. It needs to be. So I don't know that there's a whole lot of discussion here. It was more of an educational sort of get y'all to look at that and expand your thinking along those lines. John, you had made a comment to me today about when you were looking back on some previous stuff, that it jogged your memory about, it's sort of in the same vein here.
So we went through whole strategy stuff, right? Or strategy. I looked at our April meeting. That's when we did that with the April meeting. So I think that's worthwhile, Paul. I'd like to call on you to guide FMAC to focus its attention on the outcomes from that product. I think it was an excellent process. Well, and get ourselves that's how we, bring it to the next step. Okay, we did a lot of brainstorming. We've got some great ideas. Now let's consolidate those into action.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you offline, John. We can work something up for the next meeting. Okay, yeah, great point. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back out of the closet. We have no other agenda items unless I've just missed something and somebody feels like we have something else we need to cover tonight. If not, then we are adjourned at 7:26 p.m. Hey,
Model of
record.
efficiency.
That's got to
yes.
be a record. Ed, thank you.
the world.